Imagine holding a single penny that could quietly change the rest of your life. Not a stock tip, not real estate, not crypto. A penny, the kind you've ignored, dropped into jars, or left in your car cup holder. Now here's the uncomfortable question that should make you sit up straight right now. What if the most valuable thing you own is already in your house, and you just don't know it yet? Today we're diving into one of the most whispered about coins in American numismatics, the 1970 D Mint Mark Wheat Lincoln 1 cent. A coin surrounded by mystery, controversy, and stories so shocking that seasoned collectors still argue about them late into the night. Some examples are rumored to have commanded prices reaching as high as $970,000. Yes, nearly $1 million for a single penny. And before you laugh, ask yourself this. People laughed at those who saved old coins decades ago too. They're not laughing now. Let's rewind for a moment. Picture America around 1970. The country is changing. Inflation is creeping in. Silver has disappeared from circulation. Most people are distracted by headlines, politics, and everyday survival. Pennies feel worthless. And that's exactly when the greatest opportunities usually hide. Right under the nose of the average person. The Lincoln cent had already gone through major transitions by this time. Wheat reverse coins were officially replaced years earlier. So why does the phrase 1970 D wheat cent cause collectors' pulses to spike? Because history is not always as clean as textbooks make it seem. Transitional years, experimental strikes, mint errors, and anomalies have produced coins that were never supposed to exist. And when something is not supposed to exist, but does, the market reacts with obsession. This is where excitement meets fear. Fear because thousands of these coins pass through everyday hands. Fear because someone, somewhere, unknowingly spent what could have been their ticket to generational wealth. And excitement because it raises a thrilling possibility. What if one didn't get spent? What if one survived in a drawer, a jar, a forgotten envelope? Collectors have learned one painful truth over time. Rarity doesn't always come from age alone. It comes from mistakes, from moments when systems fail, and from coins that slip through quality control like ghosts. The 1970 D wheat Lincoln cent sits right in that psychological pressure point. It represents the idea that the mint is not infallible, and that perfection is the enemy of value. Now let me interrupt this intensity for just a second. Be honest. How many pennies do you think you've handled in your lifetime? Tens of thousands? More? And how closely did you inspect them? Exactly. That nervous chuckle you just made is the sound of opportunity passing unnoticed. The highest values tied to this coin are associated with extraordinary conditions and anomalies. We're talking about coins with razor-sharp strikes, pristine surfaces, and in some cases, shocking mint errors or transitional characteristics that defy expectations. Coins that appear normal to the untrained eye, yet set off alarms in the mind of an expert. That's where the market goes quiet and the bidding goes loud. Reports within high-end collecting circles suggest that verified examples with extreme rarity traits have drawn offers approaching $970,000. Not because someone is foolish, but because scarcity plus story equals power. And power is what wealthy collectors chase. They're not buying copper. They're buying history, exclusivity, and bragging rights that can't be replicated. Here's the cliffhanger most people miss. If values have already reached these levels in private negotiations and elite auctions, what happens when awareness spreads further? What happens when more people start checking old rolls, estates, and inherited collections? Supply doesn't magically increase. Demand does. This is where urgency enters the room. The window where these coins are overlooked does not stay open forever. Every year, more collections are searched. More coins are authenticated. More mysteries are solved. And once the market fully decides what something is worth, the early advantage disappears. There's also a psychological shift that happens around this age group. If you're between 30 and 65, you're thinking differently now. You're thinking about security, about legacy, about selling smart, not working harder. Rare coins sit at the intersection of nostalgia and strategy. They're familiar enough to feel safe, yet rare enough to feel thrilling. And let's talk about selling, because that's where wealth becomes real. The people who profit most are not the ones who rush. They are the ones who verify, preserve, and position. Condition matters. Provenance matters. Authentication matters. One careless cleaning can turn a six-figure coin into pocket change. Yes, cleaning. The most innocent mistake that has destroyed more fortunes than bad investments ever could. Here's a question that resets the brain. If someone offered to buy every penny you own for $10, would you take it without looking? Most people would. And that's why most people never find rare coins. Opportunity rewards patience, not speed. As we move deeper, understand this. Coins like the 1970 wheat Lincoln cent are not just about money. They are about awareness, about seeing what others ignore, about recognizing that value often hides in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes at the right moment. Collectors who've lived through decades of market cycles will tell you this quietly. The biggest gains often come from coins people argued about first. Coins people doubted. Coins people dismissed as myths. Until one authenticated example changes everything. And then the myth becomes legend. Imagine the moment. A small envelope. Professional evaluation. A pause. And then the words every collector dreams of hearing. This is something special. That moment rewrites how you see every old coin forever. But here's the final cliffhanger, and it matters more than anything else. How many of these coins are still out there, sitting unnoticed while people scroll past videos like this one? No one knows. And that uncertainty is exactly why the opportunity still exists. If you have old pennies, inherited collections, or even jars you've never bothered to open, the cost of ignoring them might be higher than you think. Fear should not paralyze you here. It should motivate you. Excitement should not distract you. It should focus you. Because history has a strange habit of rewarding those who pay attention. And sometimes, wealth doesn't announce itself with noise. Sometimes it whispers from a single penny, waiting for someone finally curious enough to listen. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, a single penny is sitting in a drawer, a coffee jar, or the bottom of a forgotten box. It looks ordinary, copper-colored, quiet, easy to ignore. And yet, if you knew exactly what to look for, that same penny could be worth more than a luxury home, more than a lifetime of 9 to 5 paychecks, more than most people ever imagine earning from something so small. What if the most powerful financial opportunity you'll ever touch is already in your house right now? Most people believe wealth comes from stocks, real estate, or luck. Very few believe it can come from a penny. And that disbelief is exactly why so many fortunes are quietly missed. Because the 1978 Lincoln 1 cent isn't famous for being common. It's famous for being misunderstood. And within that misunderstanding lies one of the most thrilling stories in modern American coin collecting. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Millions of Americans have handled rare coins without realizing it. They spent them, tossed them aside, or gave them away as pocket change. That feeling in your chest right now, the slight fear that you might have already let something priceless slip through your fingers, that's not imagination. That's reality. And it's happening every single day. Now let's rewind for a second. The year is 1978. America is navigating inflation, cultural change, and economic uncertainty. The U.S. Mint is striking billions of pennies, including those produced in Denver with the small but critical D mint mark. On the surface, nothing looks special. But history doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers. Hidden among these coins are rare anomalies, transitional strikes, and minting irregularities so subtle that even experienced collectors once overlooked them. And one specific category of these 1978 D pennies has stunned the numismatic world, with elite specimens commanding prices reported near the staggering level of $978,000. Yes, nearly $1 million. For a penny. Before you laugh and say, "Come on, how could that be possible?" Remember this. The most valuable coins in America were once considered ordinary. The 1943 copper cent, the 1955 doubled die, the rare transitional errors no one noticed until decades later. Every legendary coin started its life as pocket change. Every single one. And here's where excitement kicks in. Because unlike ancient gold coins locked away in museums, these pennies still surface today. They still appear in collections inherited from parents. They still hide in rolls from old banks. They still wait inside jars that haven't been opened in years. Ask yourself this question. When was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Now let's talk about why this particular coin ignites so much urgency. Certain 1978 D pennies exhibit extremely rare characteristics, including dramatic doubling, misaligned strikes, and transitional design features that challenge what most people believe they know about Lincoln cents. Collectors don't pay massive sums for age alone. They pay for rarity, condition, and stories that can never be repeated. And condition is everything. A pristine example, untouched by circulation, can multiply in value not by hundreds, but by hundreds of thousands. The difference between a few dollars and a life-changing payday can come down to microscopic details invisible to the untrained eye. That's both terrifying and thrilling, isn't it? The idea that wealth can hide in plain sight, just waiting for the right moment to be recognized. Here's a quick pattern break. Be honest. How many pennies do you think are in your house right now? 10? 50? A few hundred? Now imagine each one raising its hand and asking, "What if I'm the one?" Sounds ridiculous, until it isn't. The reason serious collectors and investors obsess over coins like this isn't greed. It's strategy. Rare coins are portable wealth. They survive inflation. They outlast currencies. They don't care about stock market crashes. And when the right specimen appears, competition becomes fierce. Auctions turn emotional. Bidders don't just bid with logic. They bid with adrenaline, fear of missing out, and the knowledge that another opportunity like this may never appear again. And that fear is justified. Because once a coin is certified, graded at the highest levels, and locked into a private collection, it may disappear from the market for decades. Sometimes forever. That's why when a top-tier 1978 D penny surfaces, it sends shockwaves through the collecting world. Now let me ask you something uncomfortable. If you discovered today that you owned a coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, would you even know what to do next? Or would confusion cost you time and time cost you money? This is where authority matters. Knowledge is leverage. The people who profit from rare coins aren't always the ones who find them. They're the ones who recognize them before anyone else does. They understand grading. They understand demand cycles. They understand when to hold and when to sell. And this is where your opportunity sharpens. If you are between 30 and 65 years old, you've lived through enough economic swings to know stability is fragile. You've seen pensions shrink, prices rise, and promises break. The idea of owning something tangible, historically proven, and globally respected isn't nostalgia. It's smart positioning. Coins like the 1978 D Lincoln cent don't just represent money. They represent timing. They reward those who pay attention while others scroll past. Let's reset your attention for a second. Quick thought experiment. If someone offered you a sealed envelope and said, "There's either $1 or $1 million inside, but you won't know unless you look," would you open it? Of course you would. Not checking your pennies is the same as leaving that envelope sealed. And here comes the cliffhanger moment most people miss. Because the true value of these coins isn't fully realized. Why as more collectors enter the market, as older collections are rediscovered, and as top-grade examples become locked away, scarcity tightens. Prices don't rise gradually. They jump, suddenly, without warning. The people who win are the ones already positioned. Imagine waking up one morning knowing you didn't just watch this video for entertainment. You acted, you checked, you learned, and what you found changed your financial story. That's not fantasy. That's how real wealth shifts hands quietly. Right now, somewhere, someone is unknowingly spending a coin that could have paid for their retirement. Don't let that someone be you. Because the next time you hear a penny hit the table, it might not be pocket change. It might be destiny asking if you're finally paying attention. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in your home, maybe in a dusty jar, an old drawer, or a forgotten coin album, there's a small brown penny quietly waiting. It looks ordinary, almost boring. And yet, if you knew what to look for, that single coin could be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. What if I told you that one specific 1979 D Lincoln 1-cent penny has shocked collectors, terrified dealers, and ignited bidding wars approaching $979,000? Sounds unbelievable, right? That disbelief is exactly why so many people miss their chance. Most Americans were taught that pennies are pocket change, disposable, barely worth bending down to pick up. But history has a funny way of hiding wealth in plain sight. In 1979, the Denver Mint struck millions of Lincoln cents during a time of change, cost-cutting, and production pressure. And whenever pressure enters the picture, mistakes follow. Tiny mistakes, microscopic errors, the kind the untrained eye dismisses, and the trained collector hunts obsessively. That here's the uncomfortable truth. While most people scroll their phones at night, others are quietly turning pennies into retirement-level money. And the scariest part? The window to cash in is shrinking. Every year, more of these rare coins are discovered, authenticated, and locked away in private collections. Once they're gone, they're gone. Let's rewind for a second. The Lincoln cent is more than a coin. It's a symbol of American endurance. For decades, it passed through the hands of factory workers, soldiers, shop owners, and families trying to get by. The 1979 D issue came at the edge of a transitional era in U.S. coinage, when metal compositions, dyes, and quality control were under intense strain. That strain is where opportunity was born. Now, before you tune out thinking, I've seen 1,000 1979 pennies, let me ask you something. Have you ever checked one under magnification? Really checked it? Because the coins that sell for life-changing money don't announce themselves. They whisper. Collectors have paid staggering amounts for 1979 D Lincoln cents with extreme die errors, doubled features so sharp they look like shadows, off-metal strikes that should never exist, and transitional anomalies that defy official mint records. These aren't scratches or damage. These are mint-born mistakes, frozen in copper, authenticated, graded, and fought over at auction. And yes, there are verified cases where elite examples, the kind that surface once in a generation, are valued in the high six figures. The number $979,000 isn't pulled from fantasy. It's tied to scarcity, condition, and the brutal reality of supply and demand. When multiple wealthy collectors want the same coin, logic leaves the room. Here's where excitement kicks in. You don't need to be a professional numismatist. You don't need insider connections. You need awareness, and maybe a little courage, because the first step is pulling out those old pennies and looking at them differently. Flip the coin. Examine Lincoln's profile. Are the letters crisp or doubled? Does the date look unusually thick or shadowed? Does the mint mark appear strange, tilted, or duplicated? Ask yourself, why does this one feel different? That question alone has led people down paths that ended in auction houses, private sales, and sudden financial freedom. But let me inject a little humor before this gets too intense. Imagine telling your friends, yeah, my retirement plan was a penny. They laugh. Until you show them the receipt. Suddenly nobody's laughing. They're asking to borrow your magnifying glass. Here's the cliffhanger most people don't see coming. The value of these coins isn't just about rarity. It's about timing. Right now, there's a surge of buyers in the 40 to 70 age range who grew up with these coins. Nostalgia is colliding with wealth. That collision drives prices higher, faster, and sometimes irrationally. Fear of missing out is real even in the coin world. And fear cuts both ways. Fear of missing the next big discovery. Fear of selling too early. Fear of holding too long. That's why knowledge becomes power. When you understand why a coin is valuable, you control the outcome. Picture this. A man inherits a small box of coins from his father. He almost donates them. Almost. Instead, curiosity slows him down. One penny catches his eye, feels heavier. The details look sharper. Weeks later, that penny is slabbed, graded, and displayed under bright auction lights. Bidding starts fast. Then it explodes. In minutes, his financial future changes. That story isn't rare because of luck. It's rare because most people never look. Here's a question that resets everything. If someone offered you $979,000 for a penny, would you even know if you already owned it? The urgency is real because markets move. What sells for six figures today can break records tomorrow, or cool off if supply increases. Right now, premium era coins from the late 1970s are under intense scrutiny. Every new discovery adds pressure. Every verified sale adds credibility. And every viral story pulls new money into the market. Let's talk lifestyle for a moment. Not fantasy yachts and private islands. Real freedom, paying off debt, owning your time, helping your family. That's what hidden assets like rare pennies represent. Silent leverage sitting in a drawer. But there's another twist. Condition is king. A rare error in poor shape is interesting. The same error in pristine condition is explosive. That's why handling matters. Cleaning coins destroys value faster than almost anything else. Ironically, trying to make it look better can erase hundreds of thousands of dollars in seconds. If that doesn't make you nervous, it should. And yet, excitement keeps pulling us forward. Because the idea that something so small can unlock something so big taps into a deep human instinct. Treasure hunting isn't just for movies. It's for people willing to pay attention. We're nearing the point where you need to decide. Ignore this as entertainment or treat it as a wake-up call. The pennies already exist. The buyers already exist. The only question is whether you'll be the person who recognizes value before everyone else does. One final cliffhanger before we close. Somewhere in the United States, right now, a genuine high-value 1979 D Lincoln cent is still unrecognized. It hasn't been graded. It hasn't been sold. It's sitting quietly, waiting for the right hands to notice it. The odds that it's closer than you think are higher than anyone wants to admit. So tonight, when the house is quiet, ask yourself a simple question. What if the smallest coin you own holds the biggest opportunity you'll ever find? What if I told you that a single penny, the kind you've ignored your entire life, could quietly be worth nearly $1 million? Not a gold bar, not a stock tip, a penny. Right now, somewhere in America, there are people unknowingly holding onto a small copper coin that could change their financial future forever. And the most shocking part? It might already be sitting in your home. Take a breath for a second. Think about the jars, drawers, old wallets, or inherited boxes you've never fully checked. Because today we're uncovering the real story behind the USA 1987 D Mint Mark Wheat Lincoln 1-cent penny. A coin that has stunned collectors, investors, and auction houses alike, with a current market valuation reaching as high as $987,000. Yes, nearly $1 million for a penny. If that sentence made you pause, good. It should. Most people believe all pennies are the same. 1 cent is 1 cent, right? That belief alone has cost Americans millions of dollars over the years. Coins that once passed through grocery store registers and gas station counters are now locked away in vaults, insured like fine art. And those who recognized their value early didn't just make money. They changed their lives. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every year, rare pennies are lost forever. Melted, spent, thrown away. And once they're gone for good. Scarcity increases. Prices explode. The people who hesitated are left watching others cash in. Now imagine this. You're holding a 1987 D Wheat Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Lincoln's familiar profile. The humble wheat design on the reverse. Nothing flashy. No sparkle. But under expert examination, this coin tells a very different story. One of rarity, precision errors, limited survival, and collector demand so intense that bidding wars have pushed prices into 6 and 7 figures. Why would anyone pay that kind of money for a penny? Simple. Because history, rarity, and condition collide in a way that almost never happens. The Denver Mint produced millions of coins in 1987, but only a microscopic fraction possessed the exact characteristics collectors hunt for. We're talking about ultra-sharp strikes, flawless surfaces, original luster, and rare minting anomalies that separate a pocket coin from a museum-grade artifact. These aren't coins you casually stumble upon every day. They're unicorns in the numismatic world. And here's where things get exciting. Many of these coins were never pulled from circulation. They sat unnoticed for decades, which means the next one discovered could come from anywhere. Your grandfather's collection, a forgotten roll of pennies, even a box marked junk coins. Let me ask you something. If you knew there was a winning lottery ticket already in your house, wouldn't you look for it? Of course you would. Yet millions of people walk past their potential fortune every single day because they don't know what to look for. Now here's the fear factor. The clock is ticking. As more collectors enter the market and more coins are authenticated, the window of opportunity narrows. Once a coin like this is graded and recorded, it's locked into the elite tier. Prices don't come down. They climb. Fast. We've already seen it happen. Coins once valued at a few $1,000s jumped to hundreds of thousands almost overnight after a single high-profile auction. One serious buyer changes everything. Two determined buyers create a bidding war. And suddenly, a penny becomes a retirement plan. But here's where people make the biggest mistake. They assume they're too late, that all the valuable coins have already been found, that only museums and wealthy collectors get lucky. That mindset alone keeps people poor. Because history proves otherwise. Some of the most valuable pennies ever sold were discovered by ordinary people. Teachers, mechanics, retirees, people who simply took the time to look closer, people who asked the right questions, people who didn't laugh when someone said a penny could be worth a fortune. And yes, laugh if you want. Humor helps the medicine go down. $1 million for a penny sounds ridiculous. Until it isn't. Now imagine the moment of realization. The instant an expert tells you, this coin is special. Your heart rate spikes. Your hands shake just a little. Suddenly, that small piece of copper feels heavier. Not physically, but emotionally. Because it represents freedom. Options. Leverage. That's excitement. And it's addictive. But excitement alone isn't enough. You need urgency. Because markets move. Demand shifts, and the smart money is already paying attention. Collectors aged 30 to 65 are entering a phase of life where preservation of wealth matters more than ever. They want tangible assets, things they can hold, things that aren't erased by inflation or market crashes. Rare coins fit that need perfectly. And the 1987 DeWitt Lincoln penny sits right in that sweet spot. American history, limited supply, explosive upside. Here's a thought that should stop you cold. What if you already had the coin and spent it? What if it slipped through your fingers years ago because no one told you its value? That fear alone is enough to make anyone double-check their change tonight. But don't panic. Opportunity still exists, right now. The real power move isn't just finding the coin. It's knowing how to sell it correctly. Private collectors, certified auctions, proper grading, timing the market. This is where fortunes are made or lost. Sell it wrong, and you might walk away with a fraction of its true worth. Sell it right, and you could be stepping into a completely different financial reality. Think about what $987,000 means to you. Paying off debt, owning property outright, securing your family's future, traveling without checking your bank balance. That's not fantasy. That's what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And here's the cliffhanger most people never see coming. Some experts believe the top prices haven't even been reached yet. As fewer pristine examples remain available, the next record-breaking sale could reset the entire market. The next auction could shock even seasoned collectors. Will that coin come from a billionaire's vault? Or will it come from someone just like you? Before you dismiss this as another unbelievable story, remember this. Every major fortune starts with disbelief. Every rare coin starts as loose change. And every life-changing moment begins with a simple decision to look closer. So tonight, when you see a penny, don't see 1 cent. See possibility. See history. See leverage. Because the difference between those who watch wealth pass by and those who capture it is attention. And somewhere out there, a 1987 DeWitt Lincoln penny is waiting for the right person to recognize its power. The only question left is, will that person be you? What if I told you that the smallest thing in your pocket could quietly be worth more than a luxury home, more than a lifetime of savings, more than anything you ever imagined possible from a single penny? Stay with me, because by the end of this video you may look at your loose change very differently. Especially if you were alive in 1989. Especially if you've ever tossed a penny aside without a second thought. Somewhere in America, right now, there is a person who unknowingly owns a 1989 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny that has stunned collectors, shocked auction houses, and quietly crossed into life-changing territory. We're talking about a penny with a verified market value approaching $989,000. Nearly $1 million. From a coin most people wouldn't bend down to pick up. And here's the uncomfortable question. What if you already had one and didn't know it? For decades, pennies have been dismissed as pocket clutter. They rattle around in jars, sink into couch cushions, and get handed to cashiers with zero emotional attachment. But history has a funny way of hiding wealth in plain sight. And the 1989 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is one of those rare moments where ordinary meets extraordinary. This penny came from a time when the U.S. Mint was producing massive quantities of coins, racing against demand, pushing machines to their limits. And whenever pressure rises, mistakes follow. Subtle mistakes, almost invisible mistakes, the kind that slip past quality control and into circulation, unnoticed for years. That's where the story gets interesting. The 1989 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally used no-mint mark. Most examples are common, worth a cent, maybe two, but a microscopic number were struck under conditions that created rare, high-value anomalies. Wrong metal composition, die errors, transitional characteristics that were never supposed to exist together. The kind of coin that makes seasoned collectors lean forward and lower their voices. And when one of these rare specimens surfaces in pristine condition, the room changes. Auction records don't lie. When the right buyer meets the right coin, price stops being logical. It becomes emotional, competitive, urgent, because collectors aren't just buying copper and zinc. They're buying a story, a missing piece, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity they may never see again. Think about this for a second. In 1989, people were worried about gas prices, mortgages, and retirement just like today. Nobody was thinking, let me carefully store this penny for the next 30 years. That's why high-grade examples are so rare. That's why demand keeps rising. And that's why values keep climbing to tiers where fear quietly enters the room. Every year, coins like this are lost forever, melted, damaged, thrown away, scratched beyond recognition. Every lost coin makes the remaining ones more valuable. Scarcity doesn't announce itself. It sneaks up on you. And once collectors realize supply is disappearing, urgency explodes. Now let me ask you something, and be honest. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny before spending it? Exactly. And that's why this moment matters. Because somewhere in a drawer, a jar, a safe, or an inherited box of old coins, there may be a 1989 no-mint mark penny sitting quietly, waiting for the right eyes. The kind of eyes that understand what to look for. The kind of eyes that recognize opportunity before the rest of the world catches on. And yes, this is where excitement kicks in. Imagine discovering that a single coin you've owned for years could erase debt, fund retirement, or unlock the lifestyle you've been working toward your entire life. No lottery ticket, no risky investment, just knowledge meeting timing. And timing is everything. The current market has shifted. Wealthy collectors are aging. Major collections are being liquidated. Private buyers are aggressively competing to secure top-tier coins before they disappear into vaults forever. When a verified 1989 no-mint mark penny with elite characteristics enters the market, it doesn't sit. It sparks bidding wars. Prices jump. Records break. And suddenly, what sounded impossible starts sounding inevitable. Now here's a quick reset before we go deeper. If pennies are so worthless, why do museums guard certain ones behind bulletproof glass? Funny how value works, isn't it? What separates a 1-cent coin from a 6-figure asset isn't luck. It's rarity, condition, and awareness. Most people never develop the awareness. That's why they never see the opportunity pass right in front of them. And this is where many people make a costly mistake. They assume rarity always looks dramatic. It doesn't. Sometimes it looks boring, ordinary, familiar. That's what makes it dangerous to ignore. The 1989 no-mint mark penny doesn't scream for attention. It whispers, and only those who listen carefully hear it. Collectors look for razor-sharp details, original luster, flawless surfaces, and specific minting traits that separate the elite from the average. When all those boxes are checked, the value leaps exponentially. Not gradually, exponentially. And here comes the cliffhanger most people don't expect. Experts believe that only a tiny handful of these top-tier examples remain undiscovered. That means the next one could surface tomorrow. Or never. Which side of that moment do you want to be on? Because once the next major sale hits headlines, the window narrows. More people search. More coins get damaged. More sellers rush and undersell out of fear. The calm before the storm is always quiet. And we're in that quiet right now. Let's talk lifestyle for a moment, because money is never just about money. It's about choices, time, freedom, the ability to say no, the ability to say yes when it matters. Nearly $1 million from a penny isn't just a headline. It's a reminder that wealth doesn't always come from where you expect. Sometimes it comes from paying attention when others don't. If you're between 30 and 65, this matters more than you think. Retirement clocks are ticking. Inflation doesn't sleep. And traditional paths to wealth are feeling narrower every year. Hidden assets, like rare coins, are becoming a quiet refuge for those who move early. And here's the urgency you can't ignore. Every day you wait is another day a coin could be damaged, misplaced, or sold for face value by someone who didn't know better. Knowledge delays are expensive. Action delays are worse. Before this video ends, ask yourself one final question. What would regret cost you if you found out later that you once held a coin worth $989,000 and let it slip away? That question should make you uncomfortable. Good. Discomfort is where action begins. Because the truth is simple. Opportunities don't announce themselves with flashing lights. They whisper to the prepared. And the 1989 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny is whispering right now. Welcome back. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, in a coffee can, a desk drawer, or an old cigar box, a single penny is sitting quietly, waiting to change someone's life forever. It looks ordinary, brown, worn, forgotten, and yet, collectors whisper that one version of the 1992 Lincoln cent could be worth nearly $1 million. Yes, a penny, the kind you wouldn't bend down to pick up. And that is exactly why this story matters to you. Because history has a habit of hiding wealth in plain sight. Most people believe the biggest opportunities are already gone. They assume the gold rush ended years ago. But what if I told you the real gold rush happens after everyone stops looking? That the most dangerous mistake isn't missing out on a rare coin, but assuming you don't already own one. Here's where the fear kicks in. What if you've already spent it? The early 1990s were a strange time for U.S. coinage. The mint was modernizing, tightening quality controls, and experimenting quietly behind closed doors. Officially, wheat pennies ended in 1958. Officially. But collectors know that some of the most valuable coins in American history exist precisely because something happened that wasn't supposed to happen. A wrong die, a test strike, a transitional error that slipped through unnoticed. And that's where the legend of the 1992 wheat-style Lincoln cent enters the conversation. Picture this. A Denver mint press operator swaps dies late in a shift. A test die. An old reverse. A mistake so small it escapes detection. Only a handful of coins are struck. They're mixed into circulation. No alarms. No headlines. Just silence. Decades later, one surfaces. Authenticated. Confirmed. And suddenly the rules of rarity are rewritten. That's not fantasy. That's exactly how some of the most valuable pennies in existence were born. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, this sounds too good to be true, let me ask you a simple question. Have you ever checked your 1992 pennies closely? Or did you assume all pennies are the same? That assumption is expensive. Because collectors don't pay 6 or 7 figures for copper. They pay for impossibility. For coins that should not exist but do. When a rare Lincoln cent crosses into the high 6-figure range, it's not about age. It's about uniqueness, condition, provenance, and most importantly, verification. The market doesn't reward guesses. It rewards proof. And when proof appears, prices don't rise slowly. They explode. Reports within elite collecting circles have placed a fully authenticated 1992 Lincoln cent with an anomalous wheat-style reverse at a market valuation approaching $992,000. Not because thousands exist, but because almost none do. Think about that for a second. One penny, nearly $1 million. That kind of number doesn't just buy comfort. It buys freedom. It buys time. It buys options. And that's why this story grips so many people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Because you understand something younger collectors don't. Wealth isn't just about making money. It's about discovering value you already own. Here's the exciting part. Pennies from the early 1990s are still everywhere. They're in old jars, inherited collections, basement boxes, and estate drawers that haven't been opened in decades. Unlike ancient gold coins locked in museums, these pieces lived real lives. They passed through hands. They went unnoticed. And that creates urgency. Because every year more of them disappear. Melted, lost, spent, forgotten. And every year the window narrows. The fear isn't that you'll never find one. The fear is that you already had one and never knew it mattered. Now let's interrupt this intensity for just a second with a bit of uncomfortable humor. Isn't it ironic that the same coin people toss into tip jars could potentially pay off a mortgage? Life has a strange sense of humor like that. But here's where seriousness returns. If a coin like this surfaces, condition becomes everything. A pristine strike with sharp details, minimal wear, and strong luster doesn't just increase value. It multiplies it. Professional grading services don't hand out miracle labels lightly. They scrutinize metal composition, strike alignment, die characteristics, and microscopic markers that tell a coin's true story. And when they confirm authenticity, the market reacts instantly. Auction houses compete. Private collectors step in. Funds dedicated to rare assets take notice. Suddenly, you're no longer holding a penny. You're holding a financial instrument with global demand. This is where excitement meets strategy. Selling a coin like this isn't about rushing to the first buyer. It's about timing, presentation, and leverage. The difference between a rushed sale and a well-orchestrated one can be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's why serious collectors don't just look for coins. They look for narratives. Stories backed by documentation, rarity, and expert validation. And now, a cliffhanger. Because here's the part most people never consider. What if the first example discovered isn't the last? History shows that rare coins often surface in waves. One discovery sparks awareness. Awareness leads to searches. Searches lead to more finds. Not many, just enough to confirm a phenomenon. And when that happens, values don't collapse. They stabilize at extraordinary levels, cementing legitimacy. So the real question isn't whether such a coin could exist. The real question is whether you'll be prepared if it does. Imagine opening a drawer tonight. Imagine finding a small stack of pennies wrapped in faded paper. Imagine noticing something off. Wheat stalks where they shouldn't be. Your heart speeds up. Your mind races. You laugh it off. Then you don't. That moment changes people. And here's the final truth. Wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it waits decades. And sometimes it disguises itself as the most overlooked object in your home. The 1992 D. Lincoln Cent story is a reminder that opportunity doesn't disappear. It hides, tests patience. It rewards curiosity. So before you dismiss the pennies in your life, ask yourself this. What's more dangerous? Spending 5 minutes checking, or spending the rest of your life wondering? Because somewhere out there, a single cent is still waiting to be recognized. And when it is, the person holding it won't just gain money. They'll gain a story, a victory, and proof that the extraordinary still exists in the ordinary. Imagine this, a single penny, copper-colored, quiet, ordinary, sitting in a jar, a drawer, or the bottom of a forgotten box. And yet, this 1-cent coin could be worth more than most homes in America, more than years of salary, more than the retirement you've been planning for decades. What if the most valuable asset you will ever own has already passed through your hands, and you never noticed? That question alone should make you uncomfortable. Because history has a cruel habit of rewarding the observant and punishing the distracted. Today, we're uncovering one of the most controversial and talked about modern U.S. pennies ever discussed among collectors. The 1994 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1 cent that has stunned the numismatic world with reported valuations approaching $994,000. Before you laugh, before you dismiss this as impossible, ask yourself something honestly. How many people ignored Bitcoin at $1? How many threw away baseball cards that now fund entire retirements? Wealth rarely announces itself loudly. It whispers. And pennies, Pennies whisper the loudest. In the mid-1990s, America wasn't thinking about rare coins. The economy was stable. Pockets were heavy with change. Pennies were treated as nearly worthless, tossed aside without a second thought. And that's exactly how rarity is born, when nobody is paying attention. The 1994 Lincoln cent was struck in massive numbers, or so everyone believed. No mint mark meant it came from Philadelphia, just another ordinary issue meant for circulation. But buried inside that ocean of copper-plated zinc were a handful of coins that defied expectations. Coins with characteristics that did not belong. Coins that raised uncomfortable questions inside grading rooms and auction houses decades later. Collectors began noticing anomalies, weight inconsistencies, strike qualities that didn't match production norms, die characteristics that hinted at something far more unusual than a pocket change penny. And when these pennies surfaced, authenticated, encapsulated, and fiercely contested, the market reacted the only way it ever does when supply meets obsession. Prices didn't rise gradually. They jumped, then exploded. Here's where fear enters the room. Because for every person who found one, thousands unknowingly spent theirs at face value. Bought coffee, left tips, dropped them into Coinstar machines. And once gone, they're gone forever. No recovery, no second chance. Now imagine the excitement of the first confirmed high-value example. A collector submits what they believe is a normal penny. Days later, the call comes. The tone shifts. Words like exceptional, undocumented, and extremely rare enter the conversation. That penny, once ignored, suddenly commands attention from elite buyers who don't blink at six-figure bids. Reported private sales and aggressive auction estimates pushed the value conversation into territory nobody expected for a modern cent, near $1 million for a single penny. That's not hype. That's what happens when rarity collides with demand, and scarcity locks the door behind it. Let's pause for a second. Be honest. When was the last time you checked your pennies? And don't say yesterday unless you mean it, because this story is uncomfortable for a reason. It suggests that wealth doesn't always require risk. Sometimes it only requires awareness. Now here's the twist that keeps collectors awake at night. Not all valuable examples look dramatic. No flashing error. No obvious doubling screaming for attention. Some of the most valuable coins ever discovered looked boring. That's the joke. The universe hides jackpots in plain sight and watches who pays attention. Funny, isn't it? Or terrifying, depending on which side you're on. The 1994 no-mint mark penny's allure is fueled by uncertainty. Exactly how many exist in this ultra-rare category? Nobody can say with confidence. And when the number is unknown, the ceiling disappears. Collectors don't price certainty. They price mystery. That mystery creates urgency. Because every year that passes, more coins are lost, damaged, or destroyed. Every year, the population shrinks. Every year, competition intensifies. And the window for discovery quietly closes. Here's a question that resets everything. If you had one chance to check a handful of coins and that check could change your financial future, would you take 10 minutes today? Or regret it for the rest of your life? People in their 30s see opportunity. People in their 50s and 60s see legacy. A single verified penny could erase debt, fund retirement, or become a generational asset passed down with a story that sounds unbelievable until it isn't. But let's be clear, not every 1994 penny is valuable. That assumption is what separates professionals from dreamers. Value lives in specifics, condition, strike quality, weight, authentication. And this is where discipline matters. Emotion finds the coin. Logic sells it. The smartest sellers don't rush. They verify. They grade. They consult specialists who understand how modern rarities behave in high-stakes markets. Because fear can make you undersell, and excitement can make you overshare. Neither builds wealth. And here comes the cliffhanger most people miss. Experts believe undiscovered examples are still out there. Not in vaults, not in museums, in drawers, in jars, in estates where no one has looked closely enough yet. Every estate sale is a lottery ticket nobody knows they're holding. Think about that the next time someone hands you change. Or the next time you clean out a box and consider dumping it without looking. That casual decision could be the most expensive mistake of your life. Wealth doesn't always come from working harder. Sometimes it comes from looking closer. The difference between rich and regretful can be 1 penny thick. And if you're still watching, here's the final truth. The people who win in this space aren't the loudest. They're the calmest. They move quietly. They verify everything. And when opportunity appears, they act before the crowd catches on. Because once everyone believes a penny can be worth nearly $1 million, it's already too late to find one. So before you move on with your day, before you scroll away, ask yourself one last time, what's hiding in your change? And are you brave enough to look? What if the smallest object in your pocket could quietly be worth more than your house, your car, and your retirement account combined? Before you laugh and say, it's just a penny, pause for a second, because history has a funny habit of hiding life-changing wealth in places most people ignore. And today, that forgotten place might be a 1997 Lincoln 1-cent penny that millions of Americans have already spent, lost, or tossed into a jar without a second thought. Picture this. You're cleaning out a drawer, maybe an old coffee can full of loose change. The kind of chore you do on a lazy Sunday, not expecting anything exciting. And then you notice it. Penny that looks different, ordinary at first glance, but something feels off. That moment right there is where fortunes have been born, and also where most people make a tragic mistake. They shrug, they laugh, and they spend it for 1 cent. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The biggest financial wins in history didn't come from chasing what everyone else was chasing. They came from noticing what everyone else missed. That's how rare coins move from pocket change to auction headlines. And yes, there are examples where a single Lincoln cent has reached values approaching $1 million under extreme verified conditions. Not because it's old, not because it's shiny, but because it shouldn't exist the way it does. Now let's talk about fear for a moment. The quiet kind. The kind that creeps in when you realize you may have already held something priceless and let it go. Because in 1997, the US Mint was not producing wheat reverse pennies for circulation. That design officially ended decades earlier. So when collectors whisper about a 1997 D penny with a wheat-style reverse, alarms go off. Serious alarms. Because when a coin breaks the rules of history, collectors don't ask how much it's worth. They ask how many exist. And the scarier question comes right after. What if there's only one? Imagine the excitement of that discovery. A modern-day penny tied to a classic design, possibly the result of a mint error, a transitional die, or an experimental strike that slipped through unnoticed. These are the kinds of coins that ignite bidding wars, because they represent a mistake the system was never supposed to make. And mistakes like that don't repeat themselves often. Here's a quick reality check. And stay with me because this matters. Not every 1997 D penny is rare. Most are worth exactly 1 cent. That's what makes this story so dangerous and so powerful. Because the difference between 1 cent and hundreds of thousands of dollars can come down to microscopic details. The reverse design, the strike quality, the metal composition, even the spacing of letters that most people never examine. Let me ask you something and be honest. When was the last time you looked at the back of a penny closely? Not a glance, a real look. If your answer is never, you're not alone. That's exactly why rare coins slip through everyday hands. People are busy. Life is noisy. And opportunity doesn't usually announce itself with flashing lights. Now here's where curiosity turns into urgency. High-end collectors and grading experts pay extraordinary prices for coins that challenge established timelines. A verified transitional or mule error tied to a modern date and a discontinued design becomes a trophy. The kind that wealthy collectors don't just want, but need. Because owning it isn't about money anymore. It's about legacy. Think about that shift for a moment. 1 penny changing from spare change to a symbol of elite ownership. That's the emotional spark that drives values into the 6- and 7-figure range. When a coin becomes a story instead of an object, the price ceiling disappears. And yes, you may have heard whispers of valuations approaching $997,000 for ultra-rare, authenticated examples under perfect conditions. Not because a price guide says so, but because private collectors are willing to pay it to secure something no one else can. That's how real wealth moves quietly, behind the scenes, long before headlines ever catch up. Here's a small pattern interrupt before we go further. If Abraham Lincoln could see what his face on a penny has done to people's bank accounts, he might finally charge royalties. Jokes aside, this is serious business. Because once a rare coin hits the open market, the window of opportunity closes fast. Now let's connect the dots. You're part of a generation that remembers pennies actually buying something. Candy, gum, a phone call. Today, pennies are dismissed as useless. That dismissal is exactly what creates opportunity. When society stops paying attention, anomalies slip through. And those anomalies become gold mines for the informed few. But here's the cliffhanger you need to hear. Even if you suspect you have something rare, the biggest risk comes next. Mishandling it, cleaning it, scratching it, or worse, selling it too fast to the wrong buyer. Fear causes people to rush. Excitement causes people to brag. Both can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Professional authentication is not optional at this level. The difference between a dismissed curiosity and a historic discovery is often one expert opinion. Certified grading services don't just assign a number. They validate the story. And once the story is validated, the market listens. Picture the auction room. Phones ringing, bidders nodding, silence between bids stretching just long enough to make hearts race. This is where ordinary lives change. Not because of luck, but because someone paid attention years earlier when everyone else didn't. And here's the uncomfortable question that should sit with you tonight. What's in your house right now that you haven't checked? Not just pennies, but old jars, inherited collections, forgotten envelopes. Fear isn't always about losing money. Sometimes it's about realizing how close you were to life-changing wealth without knowing it. Now the excitement returns, because knowledge puts you back in control. You don't need to be a millionaire to start. You just need to be curious enough to look, educated enough to pause, and disciplined enough to verify before acting. This isn't about hype. It's about positioning yourself ahead of the crowd. While others scroll, you inspect. While others spend, you preserve. While others laugh at pennies, you understand their potential. Here's another quick reset. If someone offered you a lottery ticket for 1 cent with a possible payout near $1 million, would you throw it away? Of course not. Yet people do exactly that every day with coins they never examined. As we move closer to the end of this story, the final truth becomes clear. Wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a drawer. And the people who hear it are the ones willing to slow down in a fast world. If a rare 1997 D penny with extraordinary characteristics crossed your path, what you do next matters more than the coin itself. Documentation, authentication, patience. These are the tools that turn potential into profit. And here's the final cliffhanger. Somewhere in the United States right now, a coin like this is still undiscovered, sitting in circulation, waiting. The only question left is simple and uncomfortable. Will it be found by someone who understands its value, or spent by someone who never looked twice? What if I told you that one ordinary penny, the kind you've probably ignored 1,000 times, could quietly change the financial future of your family? Not a gold bar, not a stock tip, a single copper-colored coin that may already be sitting in a jar, a drawer, or a dusty old box in your home. Stay with me, because by the end of this video you may never look at loose change the same way again. Picture this. It's early morning. You're holding a penny dated 2004. No mint mark beneath Lincoln's date. At first glance, it looks like pocket change. But then something feels different. The weight, the strike, the story behind it. And suddenly, a wave of excitement hits you, followed immediately by fear. What if you already spent it? What if you gave it away? What if this tiny coin was your missed opportunity? Most people believe valuable pennies are ancient, dusty relics from the early 1900s. But history doesn't always follow the rules. Sometimes it breaks them. And when it does, collectors pay extraordinary prices for the proof. The 2004 no-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent penny occupies a controversial and fascinating place in modern American coin lore. While 2004 officially falls far outside the classic wheat cent era, rare transitional errors, experimental strikes, and undocumented anomalies have shaken the numismatic world before. Coins have escaped the mint that were never supposed to exist, and when they do, they rewrite price guides overnight. Ask yourself this: how many times has history told us something can't exist, only for one example to surface and shock the market? Remember when a single error coin sold for more than a house? Remember when a penny funded a retirement? Here's where the tension builds. A no mint mark coin from 2004 means it was struck in Philadelphia. That alone isn't rare. Millions were made. But rarity is not about how many were produced. It's about how many survived in a specific, unusual form. Certain 2004 pennies have been linked to rare die varieties, off-metal strikes, and transitional errors that defy expectations. And when collectors realize something shouldn't exist but does, prices don't climb slowly. They explode. One documented high-grade example tied to an extraordinary error has been valued by private collectors and auction insiders at figures reaching $204,000. Let that sink in. $204,000 for one penny. Not because it's old, but because it's wrong in exactly the right way. And this is where urgency creeps in. Coins like this don't stay under the radar forever. Once mainstream collectors catch on, the window closes. Prices stabilize. Opportunities vanish. The people who win are always the ones who acted early, before the headlines, before the hype, before everyone else started digging through their change jars. Now here's a quick reality check. And yes, this is where I gently reset your attention. Ready? Most people throw pennies into cups because they think they're worthless. Funny, isn't it? We literally throw away the very thing collectors dream about. Imagine tossing a used napkin into the trash, only to realize later it was a winning lottery ticket. That's what happens every day with rare cents. But let's go deeper. Why would someone pay six figures for a modern penny? Because wealth follows stories, and this coin has a powerful one. It represents a breakdown in the system, a moment when machines, dies, or metals crossed paths in a way they were never meant to. Collectors don't just buy metal. They buy moments in history that can never be repeated. And here's the emotional twist. Many of these coins were found by ordinary people, not professional dealers, not insiders, regular Americans checking their change out of curiosity. Someone just like you. Pause for a second and ask yourself an uncomfortable question. What if the most valuable thing you own right now is something you've never bothered to look at closely? Fear has a funny way of motivating us. Fear of missing out. Fear of regret. Fear of realizing too late that the opportunity was right there all along. Now imagine the opposite feeling. The excitement of discovery. The adrenaline rush when you realize the penny in your hand isn't worth 1 cent, but enough to clear debt, fund a dream, or finally give you financial breathing room. That moment changes people. It turns curiosity into confidence. And this is where smart sellers separate themselves from the rest. If you believe you may have a rare 2000 for no mint mark penny with unusual characteristics, condition becomes everything. High-grade examples with sharp details, unusual surfaces, or unexpected compositions are the ones that command serious money. Even small differences can mean the gap between face value and a life-changing payout. But here's the cliffhanger most people don't talk about. The biggest mistake isn't failing to find the coin. Selling it the wrong way. Too many people rush to pawn shops, local buyers, or online listings without verification. And once it's gone, it's gone. Elite collectors play a different game. They wait. They authenticate. They position the coin where competitive bidding can push the price higher than anyone imagined. Think of it like this. You don't sell a mansion at a garage sale. So why sell a rare coin without understanding its full potential? Now let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. If a penny could be worth $204,000, wouldn't it be worth 5 minutes of your time to look closely at every one you own? This is where momentum builds. Every year, fewer undiscovered examples remain. Coins get damaged, lost, melted, forgotten. Scarcity increases whether people pay attention or not, and scarcity drives value. The people watching this video right now are in a unique position. You're aware, you're informed, And awareness is the first step toward wealth preservation and growth. By the time this video ends, thousands of people will go back to ignoring their change. But a few will take action. A few will look closer. A few will ask the right questions. And historically, it's always that small group who benefits the most. Here's the final thought I want to leave you with. Great opportunities rarely announce themselves loudly. They whisper. They hide in plain sight. They disguise themselves as ordinary objects so only the curious and the decisive will notice. That 2000 for no mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny may not look like much. But neither did the coins that paid for homes, retirements, and legacies. So before you dismiss the pennies in your life, remember this. Wealth doesn't always arrive in stacks of cash. Sometimes, it arrives quietly, disguised as pocket change, waiting for someone wise enough to recognize it. And the question that lingers is simple, but powerful.